All right, y'all, how's it going? This clearly is your main man, Frank. So here's the deal. First of all, these videos I've been making for you, like for the past 2 weeks especially, are all about this concept called intent-based branding, which is a method of putting out content that sells. And phase 1 is helpful, useful content that makes an offer. Phase 2 is understanding that each piece of content is an asset for your business. And phase 3 is advertising. So in that phase 1, where you're like making offers all the time, it's really important that you make offers the right way. Speaking of that, making an offer, it's time for me to make one right now. If you're interested in this whole intent-based branding methodology and you've been following along at home and watching all this stuff, and you like to learn from myself and my team on how to use it in your business, type branding in the comments below, and Tyler or Kate from my team will reach out to you, and you can get set up with a phone call with Tyler. He'll tell you how you can possibly deploy it in your business, and then if you like what you hear, you can talk about taking a training from us. Okay, so anyway, end of offer there. All right, so here's the deal. The part of this methodology is you produce content all the time. Produce content being kind of a loosely used word here. You get your phone out and shoot videos or whatever you want to do. And the content always does 3 things: provides value, builds goodwill, and makes an offer. And when I teach it to people, usually what happens is they'll do it, but they'll do it like they were doing a webinar or something. So it's like they'll, 10 minutes of content or whatever, and then at the end they're like, hey, now you should go buy this thing or whatever. And that's not the right way to do it. So the right way to do it is, instead of doing it internet marketing style, you do it HSN style. HSN in this case standing for Home Shopping Network. The way they pitch on there is like they'll demonstrate the product, they'll give content, everything, and about every 2 minutes or so they'll make the offer, right? And their offer is like, hey, call if you want to get this thing. Okay, and the internet marketing style of pitching is typically going to be content and then offer at the end. And the offer at the end is kind of hard, and there's like bonus stacks and all of this kind of stuff. So on social, you don't do it. On social, what you do is essentially you want to circle back to your offer several times during the content that you're creating. And the framework I like to use is pretty loose in doing this, but usually start out like, hey, here's what we're going to talk about, and then segue immediately into the offer by saying, hey, if you like this kind of stuff, then in our case, the way I did it was, hey, if you're interested in building a brand or whatever, type branding in the comments below, and Tyler or Kate from my office will reach out, and you can set up an appointment to talk to somebody, and they'll tell you how to do it. And if you like what you hear, you can take some training from us. So that was the offer, right? So right in the very beginning, I always like to try to do that. And then I like to always circle back to it. And the trick here is to not overthink how to do it smoothly, because it's almost impossible. So a great way to just interject the offer into your content is to be like, oh, you know what? By the way, I've been meaning to tell you, sorry, but before I forget, and then you say insert offer. So if I were to be doing that right now in this particular situation, I might say, oh, you know what? Before I forget, I've been meaning to tell you, if you're just joining us, if you're interested in learning how to do intent-based branding, and if you want my team to help you and you want to learn from us and you want us to show you how to do it and get you trained on it, type branding in the comments below. And when you do, someone will reach out to you by direct message and set up a time for you to speak with Tyler in my office, and he'll tell you all about it. And if you're interested in working with us, that's great. So see, that's how I would interject that offer. So you might be wondering, dude, it seems like you're making the offer like every, 2 minutes or whatever, and I am. And then the fear becomes, gosh, aren't people going to get mad? And the answer is probably not. Number one, if you're cool about it, they're not going to get mad anyway. But number 2, most of the people who watch stuff like this, whether they're watching it like right now as we're doing it live, or they're watching a recorded version of it later or whatever, on social media, unless they're like super engaged and even maybe binge watching, which is like the best possible scenario. But unless they're in that state, they're typically kind of scanning. So you know how you do on social, right? I mean, like, think about how you got here. If you're watching this live right now, it's around 2 o'clock or so. You're enjoying your day, you're messing around on Facebook, and if you're watching this live, like, you saw a notification or something, and then bam, next thing you know, here you are. And so that is, first of all, thank you, by the way, but secondly, that's indicative of how fleeting attention is on social media. So you kind of need to put that offer in there regularly, because if you wait till the end, they will miss it. They're not going to see it, because they're like not going to watch usually, but for a couple minutes at most. So you got to make sure you're constantly making the offer. Now, here's one more little tip I'll give you on how to pitch in social media. Every campaign, which the content part of intent-based branding is all part of a big campaign, right? It's all made up of little individual units, for lack of a better word, and every unit has its job. So in an intent-based branding campaign, you've got the content unit, right, which is like this, right? I'm like talking to you, providing content. And then you have the sales process unit. And everybody's sales process unit is different. Let's say your sales process unit is a webinar. And so if you look at that, how do people get into a webinar? Well, they register for it. So what that means is when you're giving your content and you're trying to make the offer and your objective is to get somebody on the webinar, you're not on the damn content saying, hey, you need to buy the thing that I'm selling on the webinar. You're on the content just going, hey, if you like this stuff, let's say you're selling, what was the example I used earlier, tomato gardening stuff. You're talking about tomato gardening content. You're like, hey, by the way, before I forget, if you're really hardcore about tomato gardening, I've got a tomato gardening secrets class. You can watch it for free if you go to tomatogardeningsecretsclass.com, and you can register there. It's on the house, and here are the 3 things you're going to learn. I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, what were we talking about? That's right, fertilizer. And then boom, you're back to the content. So you always want to understand that in social media, you let the sales process do the selling. You let the social part, which is the content unit, you just let that send people to the sales process. So if you were to go back and watch the stuff where I'm talking about the book, right? And I'm like, hey, if you like this kind of stuff, go to frank+kernbook.com, and I'm selling my book from content. I'm not like saying, hey, you got to go get this book. If you don't get the book, the world's going to end. It's the greatest book in the world. No, it's like, hey, today we're going to talk about dog whistle copy. And by the way, if you're really serious about marketing stuff, go check out the book at frank+kernbook.com. I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, let's talk about that dog whistle copy. See, that little chunk right there, that was making the offer to go into the sales process. In that case, the sales process is a book funnel. So, intent-based branding, like I said, it involves 3 components. High value content that does 3 things. Number 1, provides value. Number 2, creates goodwill. Number 3, makes an offer. All right. And so that thing, that methodology is very, very, very effective. If you want us to teach you how to do it, give you some ideas on how to do it in your business, show you the frameworks and all that kind of stuff, type branding in the comments below. And someone from my office, probably Tyler or Kate, they will reach out to you and they'll say, hey man, thanks for dropping by. And then they'll give you a little link to schedule a call with Tyler. He's awesome. Poor man, he has worked with me for 1,000 days and counting. So if there's anybody qualified to tell you how to do this stuff, it's going to be him. He's like kind of shaky now, he's been driven partially insane from having to deal with me so much, but very, very smart and very personable. You'll enjoy your conversation with him. So type branding in the comments below if you'd like to talk to us and you're interested in learning intent-based branding, and we'll tell you how we can potentially help you. All right, so that's how you pitch in social media without being all weird about it, and while maintaining the relationship with the folks you're trying to help.